Welcome to the Wholehearted Enneagram podcast, the Enneagram for real life. Here is where you'll find conversations where faith meets story and strategy for lasting transformation. I'm your host, Amy Wicks, here to help you find wisdom and wholehearted rhythms for moments that matter most. Whether you're learning your type or deepening your spiritual formation, these conversations will remind you that the Enneagram shines a light, but Christ is the transformation. Well, last week, Deanna Sudum and I got to explore the Enneagram Nine. We covered things like the nines longing for peace, the struggle to find their voice, and ultimately the invitation to wake up to their own desires without fear of disrupting connection. Now, because I love to highlight how you use Enneagram in real life, I have invited a wholehearted client and now friend, Meredith, who is an Enneagram 9 and who has lived and been on this wholehearted journey. I know the story is going to encourage you, whether you're a 9 or you love an Enneagram 9, because transformation isn't about having it all figured out. It's just about brave, wholehearted steps. So, Meredith, thank you for being here and sharing your story today.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting.
I know this conversation is going to go by too fast, and there's going to be more questions that I have or my friend who's listening has. And so we'll put all the ways to connect with you and with me, depending on where your questions would want to be directed. But I want to start out with how your journey began, specifically in recognizing the type 9 pattern. What was happening at the time in your life? What were the ways that it stood out to you, or who pointed it out to you? How did that journey go?
So it's actually funny because I actually originally typed myself wrong. I found the Enneagram, it was like 2016. I had just had my last baby and felt lost. And I was like, what is this? Let me look into it. And I first typed myself as a 6. As a loyalist. And I was like, oh yeah, this feels right. This feels right. And now looking back, I realized it was just because I wasn't healthy.
A little bit stressed in that season of life,
right? A little bit. I had 4 littles at home and I just didn't really know who I was anymore. And then I got talking to my sister about it and she said, oh, that's so funny. I always thought you'd be a 3. And I was like,
interesting.
I was like, okay. Well, and I'm the older sister, so that made sense in some ways. And I just kept reading about it, and I would take tests every so often. And then when I realized that the 3s and the 6s and the 9s all connect, I was like, ooh, wait a minute. And just reading more and realizing that I really fluctuated just depending on where I was and what was going on and how I was reacting. And it just made a lot more sense. I am a 9. I use both of my wings.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So that was the journey of figuring out what it even was.
Welcome to the mistyping club.
Yes.
I definitely am a part of that. I also tend to push a little bit when someone said they took a test and this is their type. And I go, have you done it the wholehearted way? Because there's just maybe a different way, a narrative way to do it. I would wonder for you, because the 3-6-9 connection, it makes so much sense. We won't dive into that today specifically, but what were some of the feelings around when you did find that 9, when that was the true lens? Was there a sense of relief? Did it answer more than ask questions, or were you going, oh my gosh, like, where do I begin?
It really, I think it made me feel seen when I realized, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Yes, that is me. That's how I react to those things. And oh, there's other people that feel that way too. So when I feel like when I felt understood, like I wasn't just reacting in weird ways and nobody else understood it. And I don't know a lot of 9s in my daily life. So to hear other people saying, oh, I do this all the time was like, oh, okay, wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
Maybe
Yes.
it's just because that's how I am. Not that I'm doing something wrong. So that part, I felt like I was seen finally when I read that
Beautiful.
description.
Okay, you recognize the pattern, and I love that it's a throwback to 2016. That was a while ago. That was 10
Yeah.
years ago, which
Yeah.
is hard to believe. So you knew the Enneagram, and to your point, maybe you hadn't done it the wholehearted way, and you recognized the pattern and you were able to name it. So that's really great because recognition does help. But recognition alone doesn't often create change. So, what made you decide that you didn't want to stay where you were or that you needed a little bit of some support because you couldn't stay here anymore?
So it's funny because when I first found the Enneagram, I was blogging. It was 2016. That's what people did.
That's right.
And I wrote a post, and again, it was a wrong type, but I titled it, This is Where I Suck. And it
Oh,
was like,
wow.
that was how I was recognizing myself. Of these are all of the ways that I'm not health. I don't know. It was just like, these are all of my faults. It was how I looked at it the first
Interesting.
time. So when I finally typed myself correctly, it was almost like, okay, I feel seen and there are other people like me. And for a while, I just stayed in that. This is just how I am. This is just how I
Mm,
am. And
wow.
see, there are other people like me and it's okay. And it's fine. And this is why I am the way I am. And it was like I stayed there for a little while of just being like, there are other people like me. This is just how I am and it's okay. And I think that's why it took me so long to, once I finally found you're a nine and you use these traits
Mm,
and this is how you are. And then realizing that like the struggle of a nine is sloth or inertia,
uh-huh.
that I was like, oh, wait a minute. If I am I just saying that because that's the thing I struggle with? Is that the
Mhm.
thing that's keeping me in this pattern because that's the thing that I struggle with? And am I just making
Yeah.
excuses for myself? And my kids are, it's been 10 years. My kids are older now. They are their own people. They are fully embracing who they are and their personalities and all the differences. And realizing that they need a healthy me in order to handle that dynamic of being a mom of four pre and teenagers now. They're not little.
Yes.
It's a lot more personal interactions each and every day that are really important. And so I knew it needed a little bit of a push to be better, to not just stay in that spot.
Yeah, there's nothing like life
Mhm.
transition, whether it's we're empty nest is looming or we have entered into these teenage years, which are can be really fun and really wonderful, but also incredibly
Yes.
pressing. So
Yes.
if I were to dramatize it and say, what was at stake if you didn't change, articulate that for me.
So it's definitely a relational stake for sure. Of I want a relationship that is going to be healthy for my kids and myself moving forward.
Yeah.
But also, we had my father in law passed away last year, and we started navigating just a whole new realm of conversations and emotions and
Mm,
interactions that were hard for everybody. And so that was really a catalyst for me too, of I could no longer, nines tend to put themselves on the back burner for
right.
sure and make a lot of excuses about why I'm not important. And that was an event that was, you couldn't do that. Everybody
Yeah.
was hurting and everybody had a reason to hurt. And that was also a catalyst of, no, you need something too. It was the oxygen mask, of put your own on first so that you can
Mm,
be there for these people and help them. And also, I want that relationship with them. I want to have a healthy relationship moving forward with my family and realizing that that doesn't really wait. Each
yeah.
every day matters for that, whether you want it to or not. You're building something forward either way.
If I could celebrate something here of and share a little bit of a personal piece of this is that you came to me in the midst of this loss and navigating but you also had a dream in your heart to pursue a
Yes.
coaching business. And I
Yes.
just want to push on that a little bit because that is a tension that most women feel for different reasons. There's different fears, even different shapes of that desire. And what I loved is that you came to this realization that there probably was a both. I can navigate this grief with my family and be available for them, and also pursue this thing that I can't shake. And even though it feels
Mhm.
very inconvenient in its timing, I feel like I need to
Yes.
go there. Would that be
Yeah.
true?
So it made me acknowledge myself, definitely. I had gotten my coaching certification just before all this happened. So there was already that, like, I'm doing this for
Mhm.
myself and this is exciting and it's new. And then we
Yeah.
had this tragedy, and I was like, this is also taking care of me
Mhm.
in a way that pushes me. And it was funny because I did come to you thinking that it would mostly be about my business and my coaching. And it ended up being that and also so much more because
Mhm.
it made it like when you were talking about the wholehearted way, it made it sustainable. Like it because it was
Oh,
changing
wow.
my
That's
heart
beautiful.
and it was coming from a place that was healthy and it was a place that I felt like God had blessed
Mm.
because it was using what he gave me but doing it in a direction and doing it in a healthy way, I guess is the best way to say it. That I felt called to. I felt like that's what he wanted me to do, but also not denying that piece of myself of like, no, I did make you this way.
Right, right.
Not to use it as an excuse, as you've been doing for the last however long, but as a starting point.
Well said. Yeah, because we like to say here, your starting point doesn't have to be your stuck point. I
Yes.
will say that so
Yes.
I'm blue in that face. But I think it's just so good. I want my friend who's listening to hear this both and idea because there is
Mhm.
never a perfect moment in our life where everything falls into place. And I promise you, the moment you do step out into this thing that the Lord has compelled you to, often tied to big dreams or things that feel beyond you, life hits the fan. There's
Right.
just, I have not had a moment of peace in the 10 years focused on this specific business. And that is one, it's resistance. Two,
Yep.
it's life. And three, it is just like what it is that we're going to have to deal with. And that is the
Mhm.
inevitable thing. And sometimes when we're going after something hard, the life is amplified. And that's the third thing. Like life just gets amplified. It's
Yes.
life, but then it gets amplified because we think, oh, I have to choose, or how am I going to divide, or
Yep.
this is hard. Because the going after your dream is never easy. It requires something out of us. So when we go, there's too many demands, we tend to just throw our desires and our dreams to the side. Am I right?
Yes. Yes. And for really good excuses of like,
Such good
these
excuses.
people are important to me and I want to give them all of this attention. And this is where I want to be present right now. And I
Right?
could give you books worth of lists.
I think the woman listening now is shaking their head. Yeah, I have a few of those. And I think it's important to understand the reasons you don't go after your dreams oftentimes are for really good reasons, but it's
Yeah.
the good being the enemy of the great or the best, and not from what's being demanded of you. I'm all for just doing good work and getting it out there. But what I mean is the good demands
Hmm.
overriding the best call that the Lord has
Yes.
and learning how to respond to that. Okay, there's a lot I would want to unpack here, but what I think I want to highlight here because you exemplify it in this moment, and I love it because this is where I want nines to really tune in to this piece. And those who love a nine, this is going to be really important because nines are known for their easygoing attitude and usually laid back and right.
Don't
And
rock the boat.
exactly, accommodating, maybe even
Yeah.
acquiescing.
Yep.
But the nine is in the gut triad with the eights and the ones, which means there is a stubborn streak underneath the beautiful piece you exemplify. So Tell me a little bit more. You and I did a lot of work around this.
Mm.
We had some giggles about it. We also had really some beautiful epiphanies, but how does the stubbornness show up for you as a nine? And how can you have some examples, like those moments that you dug in your heels
Mm.
behind the scenes, even while going along or pretending to go along in a way?
It's funny because the stubborn piece is actually one of the pieces that made me realize when I took your assessment, and it was talking about when you were young.
Mm.
Can you remember back to how you would have reacted to this, not as an adult, but as a teenager or a young adult? And that was the piece that I was like, ooh, yes. I am definitely in the right area here. Because I am a very stubborn
Mhm.
person, especially when it comes to fairness, when it comes to things being right or wrong. There's very clear black and white for that for
Yeah,
me. And so there were certain things where I would notice that, like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, I'm going to protect that thing or that time. And sometimes it would be weird. They would be weird
sure.
things where I'd be like, no, I'm not giving up whatever, my seat in the car because you want that. Like it would just be really
Sure.
weird stuff that I'd be like, "No, I wanted that." And
That's good.
learning how to make those better. Like let that come out when I decided to rather than like being pushed into those and
Ah,
choosing no, I'm going to protect that time even though this other thing came up. We're going to make arrangements for you to do that and I'm going to do this.
yes.
Whether it was something like a coaching client that I really wanted to do a meeting with, or whether it was even just something for myself that I had said, no, I was going to go out and have lunch with a friend. I'm not going to reschedule, or something for
Yes.
me that I knew that I wanted, and using that as a positive trait instead of a reactionary trait,
So good.
which I felt like I would sometimes get pushed into, or sometimes
Hmm.
I would resist with that stubbornness. I'm
Sure.
like, no, I
Yeah.
absolutely cannot make that work.
Yeah. And the identity shift is a key to in this whole piece, right? So it's awareness, it's identity work. But then in that identity, because ultimately we're understanding our belovedness and owning it, we begin to, out of that comes, we're loving ourselves and then loving others as we love
Hmm.
ourselves. And that means we respond instead of react. And
Yes.
that is where, for nines, that reaction is the stubbornness coming out sideways and maybe
Mm.
majoring on the minors. This is
Yes.
inconsequential. Like the seat,
Yes.
it doesn't really matter, but I'm upset because 5 choices ago, you didn't even ask me, or you bulldoze
Mhm.
over what I offered. And now I want my seat,
Right.
even though it
Right.
doesn't really matter
Yeah.
in the end.
The seat in the car doesn't matter. But yes. And I've learned a little bit more just speaking up earlier of,
Yeah.
or of saying, ooh, that didn't really sit right with me. Can we talk about it?
Yeah, that's
And
beautiful. I think this is important if you're listening and you are a nine to take that into consideration. We usually have a lot of nice, fluffy things to say about a nine. They're all true. But is there a streak of stubbornness that tends to sabotage the connection that you desire and the unity you long for? So, with that, to take note of it, consider that. But then those who love a nine to go, when your nine has these moments and the reaction takes you off guard, consider what this is coming from. And that obviously in the moment, a calm conversation doesn't usually happen, but to take time to unpack what got your loved one to that point where they felt dismissed and overlooked, undervalued, 5 steps back from that decision or from that reactive moment, to see what you can do, where you can invite them to that conversation sooner, take an opportunity for maybe an apology even, and invite your nine to that awareness process in a loving way, not forced or demanded of. But I think these are important clues that can really help our relationship.
yeah. And there are things that I've noticed have really helped me, even as recently as yesterday, it was my birthday weekend and we
Oh,
had so
happy
many things going on.
birthday.
It was like we had this and
So
we had that and
busy.
we had, and it was like, my husband said, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. And he was patient with me. And he was like, okay,
Oh,
when you decide, let me know. Because he's learned about me that if he pushes right at that moment, it will come out sideways.
yeah.
But I do have an opinion about it. I just have to figure it out.
Yeah, you need the time.
Because I want it to honor everybody. As a
Right.
nine, I see it from all the perspectives. I see it from the kids who want to do the thing that they were invited to do, and that event that we were invited to that they really wanted us to come. And we
Yeah.
have this obligation that we need to meet. And I would like to honor all of that and
Mm.
still do something that feels special. And so
That honors your desires.
it took me a little while. And finally, though, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I would like to go to this, do this, and then come home and have sushi at home.
I love
And
it.
not go out to dinner. And it was like, okay, we
Yeah,
can do that. And so
that's
being
good.
patient and giving enough space for me to be able to process all of the things and then come to the thing that I really wanted was super generous and wonderful. And we had a
I
great
love that.
time.
Oh, that's
But I
good.
also had to realize that no, there was a piece of it I wanted. There were parts of it that I couldn't control, but there was a piece of it
Yeah.
that I had a choice in. And if I didn't say it, that was on me.
Yeah, for sure. And I like to call those our hero moments where we exercise agency. And sometimes those hero moments are big. And that moment you said yes to coaching, whether to start your own business or to get the help. And those little micro hero moments of going, even if it's you going, I need a minute to decide. Can you come back? If our
Mm-hmm.
loved one doesn't have that insight or understanding to give us a minute to let it breathe, but to saying that and then going, yeah, what is mine to control? Where can I state my needs and desires and wants and go for it?
Yeah.
So good. That illustration will preach all day long. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you had one of those birthdays where you're like, yeah, this was the sweet side. No
Yeah.
birthday's perfect, especially
No.
as a mom and adult.
Right? Grown up birthdays are different.
It's so different. I want to shift to the faith and spiritual integration piece because you and I both know that without that, the wholehearted way isn't the full way. Now, lately, the conversation, even with some of my coaches, has been if I have a client who doesn't share my faith, what does that look like? And we all go, it's possible to still
Mm-hmm.
learn the Enneagram the wholehearted way, but this piece of faith is a huge factor in the lasting transformation. So I just love to hear from you because I know this has been a big part of it. So, how has your faith or relationship with God intersected this work that you've done, that you and I have gotten to do together?
For me, I think it's a surrender piece where it's a safe place to give up that control.
Mm,
That
that's beautiful.
when I want to control everything, that's kind of a sign of like, oh, hold on a second. Maybe you need to take a step back.
Take notice.
Or when I find myself trying to strive for that ideal of that unattainable level of expectation that I have for myself of like, okay, well, wait a minute. Let me kind of take this back to what does God say? What, you know, what does he expect from me? And what is reasonable then to expect from myself? So that has definitely helped me in being like, hold up a second. Let's rewind
That's
it a
good.
little bit. I am still working very hard on the whole stillness practice.
Yes, everyone I know, it's true. It doesn't come naturally.
It does not. It does not. But it's also been interesting. One of the things that we worked on was that communication stance, which was
Mhm.
new to me, definitely from looking at how a nine typically communicates. And it's funny because I noticed that a nine is a withdrawing stance of tending to pull back. And I noticed that significantly with my faith journey. If I
Yeah,
notice that I'm pulling away, that really affects me. And so looking at that for my relationship with the Lord has been one of the most, because his doesn't change, right? So like that has to be
absolutely.
me, and working with other people, if I'm talking about my kids or my husband, it could be them too. Like there's two sides
Sure.
of that. When it's me and the Lord, it's a little bit different. And that's been eye-opening of, nope, this is you.
Wow.
This is
Mm,
you reacting differently or behaving differently or changing how you're doing it. And so that's been something that has helped me be a little curious and just interesting to kind of think
mm,
about, of like, oh, that's how you interact with everybody. But it's a little bit more obvious when I'm looking at my relationship with the Lord. Like if I'm pulling away, I'm like, oh, that's
mm.
interesting. Maybe that's something I need to spend some more stillness time with.
Oh, Meredith, that is beautifully said. That insight alone is so transformative when we
Mhm.
realize, oh, it's not God, it's me.
Yep.
There's a peace, and even that you can name beautifully that God is consistent, so that He isn't the
Mm.
one backing off. And what does that look like for you to not, again, going back to what your natural operation or reaction would be, which is to pull away, to withdraw, to retreat, to pull in, to hide, to numb. I'm listing,
Yep.
I'm listing a
Yep.
long list. But
But
when
those
we're,
are the things, like, and
yes,
I don't necessarily notice them as quickly in my real life because
sure.
it's a busy real life,
Oh, it's so
and
busy.
and it's so much easier for me to point fingers of like, well, they're just being fill in the blank.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we can usually, it takes
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
uh,
Exactly.
that is so good, Meredith. Thank you for sharing that. It's really beautiful. Now, I think your birthday story was a prime example of how you show up differently today. I'm kind of curious if there's something else that comes to mind, or just what you would list as something that was a huge breakthrough or a growth moment in this last year, really.
I think not expecting myself to A, have all the answers, and B, do it
Mm,
perfectly, has been a really big thing. It was really funny because I had pulled out a couple of notes from different sessions that we'd had as I was thinking back through. And you say all the time of your starting point is not your stuck point, and progress means you just start again because you're never
yeah,
starting from the same place.
that's right.
And one of the things that we had talked about months ago was like releasing that responsibility of not
Mm,
having to control everything. And I forget even now that some of the things that are the way they are right now in our family weren't that way 6 months ago, 5 months
mm,
ago, 3 months ago.
wow.
And it's so easy for me to just think that this starting point is where we've always been, but it's not where we've
Yeah.
always been. So reflecting a little
Mm,
bit is something that I'm trying to do more.
yeah.
Um, of like, no, that we're still moving forward, even if it's
Yeah.
not where I want it to be.
Yeah, that's
Even if,
good.
that critical spirit keeps coming in, it's like, wait a minute, hold
Mm,
on. It's not where we started. And we're starting again today with something else, but that's not where it'll be next month or
yeah,
next week.
right.
So I think reflecting back in a positive way, not just mull over the things that aren't going well, and to notice progress, to keep that forward movement and not be stuck, to be able to acknowledge, oh, no, those things are new and
Mm,
improving, and you can keep going and you don't have to keep hiding or stewing
yeah,
or circling.
beautiful. I really powerful. And how I would sum that up, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the practice of gratitude versus ruminating when it
Yeah.
comes to reflecting back, which nines are good at reflecting back, but can tend to hyper focus on the negative of what didn't go well. And
Yes.
so in
Or
that, to
how
the
it used to be better.
yes, exactly. The nostalgia
Hmm.
kicks in and is overwhelming. So if we pair instead, nostalgia's not bad. Noticing what went wrong isn't
Hmm.
terrible either. But if we stay there instead of shifting to a place of gratitude, then we cannot celebrate where we
Right.
are. And the
Yeah.
celebration is such a key piece to growth because if we're not celebrating, what's motivating? I,
Yeah.
why keep
Yep.
going? Why keep
Yes.
trying?
And it's definitely something I'm still working on.
Oh,
As
sure.
as
All
my
of us.
kids let me know, they're like, "You always pick out the things we're doing wrong." It's like, I'm sorry. I'm
There's growth
trying.
to be
I'm
had.
trying. I'm working on that too. But yes, just being able to not just nostalgic look back, but to say like, okay, all right, this is better than it was. We've
Yeah.
made progress here, or this is improved. And not just keep making plans, but
Hmm.
stopping for a second to say, yes,
So good.
we're doing okay.
Yeah. Oh, that will be so helpful to someone listening today. Okay. Our last question, because our time has gone so quickly. What would you tell an Enneagram Nine who's just starting this journey? Maybe someone who's recognizing the pattern and has said, the pattern's great, but what now? What's next?
I think what I've come to realize is that seeing all sides of something is a strength. And I used to make myself wrong for feeling however I did because I could always put myself in everybody else's shoes and explain away why I shouldn't be this way, if
Wow.
that makes sense. So,
Yes.
I'd be like, I'd feel a certain way and I'd be like, oh, but I can see where they're coming from. So that must make me wrong and I have to be wrong about it. And seeing that now more as a gift
Mm.
and not making it mean that I'm wrong, that I can just
Yeah.
still feel that way, but I can appreciate what they're feeling and still let myself not be right or wrong, just be. And that's okay. I said at the beginning, I used to look at the Enneagram of like, this is where I'm terrible. This is where I suck. Like, these are all of my negatives and I've got to fix them. But being able to see some of those things as a gift that not everybody has, that, other people may not be able to do that. And if you
Mm.
can share that piece of it, it doesn't necessarily make you wrong for reacting a certain way or for being a certain way, but that you can use it as a starting point,
That's good.
and that it just is. And that can be
Mm.
enough. And I think that being able to see yourself in a true light, not just other people in a true light, in the best light, for me, that has been one of the biggest things that I've taken away. That if
That's
I
really
can give
good.
grace to other people, I can also give it to myself.
That's right. That's right. And how beautiful it is when we do that, because I think then our grace we're offering is truer and richer and
Mhm.
more meaningful. And there really isn't any resentment hanging over,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
We're not
important.
disappointing somebody.
Yes, yes. Oh, wow. Meredith, thank you for really sharing the true, authentic journey of whether it's like what it looked like to speak up for your birthday, the truth about stubbornness related to Enneagram Nines, the even the mistyping and the journey there, and when you were finally willing to say, okay, I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to not just stay stuck here, but to move forward and to pursue your dreams. I have gotten to witness such beautiful transformation every single time. I was like, yes, Lord. But what I want to say here in celebrating you, when you came in, you showed up authentically, but you also did that in our sessions and you came with a humble, teachable heart. And that makes all the difference in this process, knowing that someone else is not only willing to help me, but could. And it doesn't always have to be this way. There is something better, is really
Yes.
powerful to keep you
Yes.
going. So thank you. Thank you for sharing this.
And thank you, because so much of this work was facilitated by you showing that mirror. And I
Mhm.
love that you do that and you do that so well. And so I'm grateful.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
absolutely grateful. So
Me too. It's been a joy. Thanks be to God for sure. And I feel like this is a perfect time to say as well, where maybe some of these insights that you go, okay, maybe everything I've read so far about Enneagram has made me just kind of go, oh, well, it is what it is. That's the way I am. I want to invite my friend listening. I am going to be releasing a book called Wholehearted Enneagram next month, April 14th to be exact. But I specifically have run it in this wholehearted way, where I believe even if you've read other Enneagram books, you haven't read this Enneagram book. You haven't done it the wholehearted way, where it's really going to propel you into the next steps of transformation for as far as you want to go and as deep as you want to take it. Well, thank you for coming on here. If you have more questions for an Enneagram 9, Meredith is your gal. Go ahead and reach out to her. We'll put the ways to connect with her. And if you have more questions about what it looks like to go through this coaching process that Meredith alluded to, I'm happy to get your name on a wait list, and I will reach out as soon as a spot opens up. So thank you. Thank you, Meredith. And thank you, friend, for listening. And remember, your presence is what brings peace. You don't have to go along to belong. You are loved. Thank you so much, Meredith. Thanks so much for joining me for the Wholehearted Enneagram podcast. If this conversation spoke to you, please share it with a friend. You can also visit simplywholehearted.com to take the free Enneagram quiz and also get your personalized podcast playlist specific for your Enneagram type. And remember, friend, your starting point doesn't have to be your stuck point.